Great. So my name is Michael Harris. I'm the director of the NewHaven Innovation Collaborative. You may have previously known us as the Elm City Innovation Collaborative, and we've been funding projects in NewHaven for approximately 3.5 years now. So what we are is we're a local initiative that does the planning and project development for a state grant that is funded by CT Next. And CT Next is a quasi-public state agency that's focused on investing in the ecosystem for entrepreneurship. So that's programs that support entrepreneurs. Our program is called the Innovation Places Program. And so usually about twice a year, we develop a series of projects that our group thinks will be impactful to support entrepreneurship in New Haven. We apply to CT Next for funding, and then we distribute it out to a series of projects here locally. Now, each of those projects is usually a matching grant, which means that there's a dollar-for-dollar funding that needs to come from those partners or from other sponsors. And so far, we've launched about 17 programs across New Haven. The way that our process works is that we have strategies that are developed through public input that then become approved by our group. Those become our calls for projects. And then once those are reviewed by our group again, they're awarded funding when we pitch those projects to the state. So some of these would be things like MakeHaven, I've Squared, and a lot of the equipment's talked about so far. We have a board of 13 members. That's the group that approves both our strategies and our projects. They're made up by some institutional perspectives, some community perspectives, and people who have experience in some of our key sectors. And so when we recently reformulated our board this summer, that included bioscience, healthcare delivery, software, and food business. As well as perspectives from founders, investors, university partners, and community activists. And so this group will 4 times throughout the year choose to approve strategies and then invest in projects. So I just want to run through some of the types of things that we've invested in the past and then end with an invitation. So the first is these facilities for businesses like MakeHaven or the City Seed Commercial Food Kitchen. Our goal here is really providing the dollars so that businesses don't need to invest in all the equipment themselves. This is really true on the small scale food business, but also at the high-end lab incubator, where a lot of these companies that need maybe just one station or one bench don't have the resources to build the space that they need. And so some investments at Science Park and planning other bioscience spaces downtown are trying to make downtown a better place to start a business in bioscience. We're also trying to invest to make sure that New Haven residents can get jobs at those businesses. And so have been investing in things like the BioPath at Southern, where we put professional instrumentation in classrooms and then paid for people to get internships over the summer in some of these labs. Other programs include things like computer science education, so breaking out of bioscience to look at software. In a full pipeline, the program at the left is all about the digital divide, getting computers into homes that don't have them. The program at the right, the Holberton School, is a 2-year full stack development for software. All of this is building, though, to try to support entrepreneurs through space or talent. And we have a few programs that directly support entrepreneurs. So that, for example, Collab, which had their pitch day at the State House, which is a venue that we supported. Also, I've Squared with their entrepreneur in residence and creative in residence programs, and their robust online programs. Our last category is that we've been investing in some public space improvements. So on the right, it's a partnership between the town green and the previous creative in residence at the library, as well as some of the murals that we've installed, because we believed fundamentally that the spaces that our businesses inhabit need to be welcoming and inviting to the entire New Haven community if we're going to be building the type of connections that will drive collaboration. Those are things like the night market in our pre-COVID era, and a lot of the public spaces, both downtown and at Science Park, where we're trying to help people connect. So all of this is an overview of what we've done, and this leads to what are we trying to do next? And so we're about to enter a phase of building strategies for our next round of funding that will start in next July. And so what we'd like to do is to open an invitation to people active in our project partners to help provide input into what we should be focusing on. And the first big question is, what is going on? And how can we describe and measure that? What are the long-term trends that were happening pre-COVID? What has been COVID-19's impact on our local entrepreneurship and small business ecosystem? There's a few different ways that we can approach answering those questions. Here are a couple examples. So before COVID, we know that there's a racial gap in capital access that leave Black and Latinx businesses severely undercapitalized. They've also been much less successful and have faced larger barriers to accessing government assistance. But we also see long-term trends in the types of intellectual property that's being licensed. We also see things like self-employed industry or solopreneurs have been the hardest hit by COVID-19's unemployment and economic impact. And so whether it's as simple as a sentence that somebody wants to submit or a study or a piece of a testimonial, we'll have ways that people can submit both written and video options. The next question is we would have, in response to what's going on, what would you do? What do you think the city as a whole should be investing in to achieve inclusive growth in our entrepreneurial ecosystem? And so that can range from, there's this program that I saw in Chicago and I would love to bring it here, to we've got this thing locally that we want to grow and test out and see if it can work. And the two key questions that we'll be asking and would love to hear your input on are, what are we doing? What could we do to improve the trends that we see? And then how do we tell if it's working? Because often there's a lot of programs that we need to continually assess what's being impactful. And so with all of that, I leave to this invitation. We would want to hear from you. We hope you're more interested in our organization than you knew about at the beginning of our talk. And going live next week will be the format online to do a lot of that interaction and help us make the choices about programs to invest in, like MakeHaven, like the library, and things like sewing entrepreneurship resources. So very excited to participate. Thank you, JR.